This is update for September 30, 2022, day 219 of the war, end of the date update. Let's just go talk a little bit about this whole strategic situation. So, Russian president today accepted, in quotes, obviously, or admitted those occupied regions into Russia, which was accepted. It's just, obviously it's still absolutely illegal. It's absolutely insane, but that's the world of the sort of twisted KGB mind. At the same time, there is obviously huge support. There is a large group of people. As we can imagine, Russian president is not alone in what he's doing. Without strong support throughout the vertical, he will not be able to do what he is doing at this point. At the same time, the response by Ukrainian leadership was, as I mentioned yesterday, was much ado about nothing. I would say even pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And in terms of, in response to that, requesting admission to NATO is essentially saying like, hey, I cannot do anything here. I'm not capable of handling the situation, and I just want to be sort of also part of something else. So basically, it's effectively this Ukrainian leadership was sort of giving away sovereignty of the country. And yes, it's understood that Ukraine is on life support, military-wise, finance-wise. At the same time, this was definitely completely inappropriate response, because immediate response from the NATO was that, okay, well, thank you for the thank you for the letter. We will consider it at some point, and most likely it will happen in the far future. Basically, it probably will never happen anytime soon. So again, there was totally misguided move. Beyond that, there was no actual real moves that can change situation and address it. The only sort of saving grace is that Ukrainian troops are still sort of trying to advance, moving along on the ground, holding on, because the losses are still, not as high, but they definitely, not small ones. And regardless of this current situation, the situation in a month or two will be difficult for Ukraine for several reasons. First of all, is it looks like Russia is mobilizing. Is definitely not like 300,000 people. So there was interview with saying like military, like, I don't know how you call it in English, but basically the head of the office that's responsible for drafting people in St. Petersburg. I don't know what's the proper name of it in English, as I said. So he said that drafting 80,000 people from St. Petersburg. So if you really convert that number to entire Russia, extrapolate, and there is no reason not to sort of say not to do that. That really means that the number of people that going to be mobilized is between 1.5 to 2 million people. So as you can imagine, this is regardless of their motivation, just sheer number creates huge threat, right? So when they really hit the ground in Ukraine, it will be extremely hard. And yes, at the same time, Ukraine just recently, a couple of days ago, got more HIMARS rocket launchers. I think it was like 16 or 18. So the total is about 34 or 36, somewhere in that ballpark at this point. And at the same time, the most important part there is actually rockets, not the rocket launcher. In many ways, rocket launcher is sort of not hard to make. And rockets as well are not rocket science. But where's the value add are those precision guided rockets. That's where the value add, and obviously the rockets will come. Uh, at the same time, it's just HIMARS systems. And even there is 30 of them or 30 plus. It's not going to be enough to deal with roughly 2 million people. It just huge mass that has huge energy basically. And even if, let's say, 75% of them are not motivated, but even if 25% of them motivated, that's extremely dangerous threat, because there is also Russia still has a good amount of tanks, cannons, ammunition. All you need for this kind of like primitive war, or let's say World War One, World War Two, just somewhat modernized version of it. So for now, Ukraine is definitely sort of on having sort of initiative and upper hand, sorry. But what will happen fairly soon remains to be seen. And actually, some of those mobilized soldiers already actually start to show up on the ground. Let's actually. Oh, and then one more thing I forgot to mention, that Ukraine got NASAMS anti-air missile systems, and also Ukraine is getting IRIS-T from Germany. It's also anti-air missile system. They actually almost pretty much the same. There is not huge difference. Like probably IRIS-T is a little bit modern, a little bit more advanced, but the point of those systems, and basically Ukraine I think got like 6 or 8 of NASAMS, and Ukraine is going to get 4 in total IRIS-T. One is in October, another one by the end of the year, the remainder in 2023. But the sort of what this system is about, it's basically anti-air, anti-rocket system. It's relatively short range system. The radius is about, or it's I think radius about 40 kilometers, 30 to 40 kilometers. I think actually IRIS-T is a little bit shorter range, 30 kilometers, and I think NASAMS is about 40. The height is 20 kilometers. So Ukraine will have, let's say, 10 this year. This is totally not enough to cover. You probably can cover pretty well like one city or one spot, maybe 2 at most. You really cannot cover. This is not going to be sort of game changer in terms of protecting Ukraine from the rocket strikes, basically. Maybe you can selectively protect, like, let's say, nuclear power stations, things like that. A couple, not all of them even. But it's totally, as they say, too little, too late. Maybe not too late. Ukraine is still fighting, but it's definitely too little and way too little. So it's not going to be, it's not going to change drastically anything. It will be definitely helpful. There is no question about it. But the strikes are still going to be there. And if Russian leadership decides to do those strikes that we discussed against the infrastructure, energy infrastructure, and logistical infrastructure, specifically bridges, they can definitely devastate whatever is left out of Ukrainian economy and Ukraine's ability to continue fight. So this is definitely, let's say, in the pocket of Russian leadership. If, let's say, this new wave of mobilized soldiers will fail to achieve much, then there is that left definitely. So we'll see what happens. Now let's walk through the front line. Let's see what's going on the battlefield. The situation, let's start from the very north, as we always do, and then move in clockwise fashion. So the situation along the state border is more or less the same. Pretty weak exchange of artillery fire and all sort of actions on both sides, but nothing really major. Let's actually jump into North Lugansk section of the front line. because that's, as mentioned before, this is the where the main game is happening right now, where everything is happening, where the both sides are trying to achieve their objective at this moment. So on these two bridgeheads, one is near Dvorichna and the other one Kupiansk. Nothing is happening as we uh, discussed. Ukraine extended this east bridgehead on the eastern side of Oskil River quite a bit here near Kupiansk. Nevertheless, there is no decisive moves out of it. Basically, there's not even try attempt to move down to Svatov essentially, because in a way it would be perfect, given this whole situation, and we'll get there to this sort of southern section of the front line. But attack here would be perfect to actually collapse this Russian front line here in the southern section. But so far it was quiet in both places. Let's actually jump. And one thing on this northern section and then this eastern are also quiet. There's no pressure, no moves by Ukrainian sides here. And Russian side is also kind of like standing still without, not trying even to counterattack there so far. So let's just actually look what happened this basically overnight and then on the morning of the 30th. Russian troops withdrew from Drobysheve and Yampil. They moved into Lyman. So it's essentially Lyman is isolated. Basically, Ukrainian troops here around the perimeter. And while they're not on this road, as you can see, this is the road that sort of feeds Lyman, and then it goes through Torsk, and then just basically this one is also kind of like under a little bit Ukrainian control, and then also this road is also under some fire control, and even Ukrainian commando groups are here. They're also operating here randomly. So there's no sort of safe road at this point. There's just kind of like probably some kind of like field roads going kind of like diagonal from this Zaporizhya Torsky area basically. So that's what's happening here at this moment. And going back to the situation here, so there's no like typical standard complete sort of wall here for this pocket, but essentially if you try to leave through this, you try to use this road, you're going to be destroyed because Ukrainian troops on both sides and pretty close, at most 2 kilometers away from the road. So it's essentially guarantees basically pretty quick death. At the same time, Russian troops are still holding on in this Zaporizhya Torsky. It's becoming on its own kind of like another smaller pocket here. Ukrainian troops attacking from both sort of sides from, well, it's not exactly north, but sort of called northwest or the Zaporizhya, and then Torsky from south and southeast. Let's actually look at this map. It's a little bit, I would say, better map. So, so as you can see, this is kind of like essentially, isolated group here, then isolated group here, and this one is more actively attacked by Ukrainian troops, but they're still holding on. And then what was happening in their, let's say, late morning, early afternoon, Russian command threw in 503rd Regiment of the 19th Division. So this division used to be on Zaporizhya front line. We don't know if this is one regiment pulled, but I would bet that the entire division was pulled from there. And actually, I don't know what's down there at this point. Nevertheless, and then also another important point about this regiment specifically, it was brought to full strength with the help of all of this mobilized people in Russia. So as you can see, this mobilized people already pretty quickly hitting actual units on the ground. So basically, they are attempting to attack to basically create a link here with this semi-isolated group in Zaporizhya and Torsky. And once they achieve that, then they will try probably to do sort of break out and essentially push Ukrainian sort of troops to probably more in the northern sector, because this is foresty. It's really hard to actually fight, and and attack there, especially if you don't have strong numerical superiority. So they will try to push all of this, basically capture all of this area to create, basically to open up this bottleneck here. There is no clear information what's happening, let's say, in the late afternoon towards evening. Pretty sure there is intense fighting happening right now, with this force trying to basically establish, it's kind of like a bridgehead to the man. Also, what I was trying to say is that Ukrainian troops, there is no contiguous front line, Russian front line here, so Ukrainian troops are using this kind of like a dams to get on the other side. It's more like a commander groups on, usually like on like trucks with mounted anti-tank rockets, and then they just basically search for opportunities on this road or elsewhere wherever they can, and basically destroy, create chaos in the rear, and destroy whatever targets they can destroy. Obviously, there was also reports that for a short while these groups gained control of Terni, but then there was, and also this is obviously don't have enough sort of strong confirmation. This is just very little, because there's very little information. But basically, Ukrainian troops gain control of the Sterny. However, this whole unit that's coming, so it's kind of like not new tide, managed to obviously push them out, because this is just kind of like reconnaissance slash commander units. They're not sort of regular units that sort of meant to gain control. So they essentially, Russian troops managed to regain control of Terni by the end of the day. So it does, just from even this, it does look like that, this pocket is not sort of still is not completely decided deal. That if Russian troops, Russian command has enough reserves, they can throw them, and it's basically gonna be mid grinder probably in that case for both sides. In that, if there is enough resources thrown on the Russian side. So we'll see where it goes. As I said, it looked in the morning that the deal is sort of is sealed, and these troops will not be able to escape. Now situation is not so clear cut. We'll see what happens. Probably tomorrow we'll have more information, because there are also some reports from Ukrainian side that Russian troops are here in Lyman preparing basically a large group to basically break out towards the region at Torsk, essentially at this point. So there are sort of two extents, or maybe not even contradictory. It's possible that this group is trying to basically create a bridge to this semi-circle group to make sure that this group can sort of break back to this Zaporizhya, Torsk, and then essentially withdrew back to this, not like main line, but basically a little bit more towards east. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Situation is definitely kind of like 50-50. It can, like, this coin can easily fall on other side. Um, I'll provide you update as soon as I know them. Usually on the community board, as I always do. Now, sorry. Now, just quick refresher how this whole situation was developing. So there was significant development started on 23rd. Then there is more 24th Ukrainian troops gaining ground, and then nothing on 25th. Then there is advance again on 26th. And then even bigger, essentially, the pocket is sort of almost created on 27th. And then basically next couple days, it just was slow effort by Ukrainian side to actually almost close this pocket, essentially. Now let's jump to, let's move south. Let's see what's going on here on this North Donbass front line. Things here pretty much the same as they always are. Russia troops, specifically Wagner mercenaries, trying to attack here in Soledar. Actually, no attacks in Bakhmut, but then there were attacks. All of this, the southern sections We always see like a lot of strong attacks here. Based on information we have, they did not gain ground here. Wagner mercenaries meaning. Now let's look what's going on the central Donbass section of the front line. Things here are also extremely sort of similar. Some Russian attacks out of this Pisky salient and also towards New York. And this is sort of one of the traditional areas of Russian attacks, nothing new here. Now let's quickly look at Zaporizhya front line. So as you can see, 19th Division was here on this more western section of the front line. Basically, what's in, as you can see, there's 429th Regiment used to be here. What is here right now unclear. So this is something that we will update as soon as we know. At the same time, as you can see, there are this naval infantry brigades here. So possible that Russian side decided to stretch and cover with this naval infantry brigades this whole section of the front line. As you can see, Ukraine does not have formally much here, at least not that we are aware. So this might be enough, and especially given that this naval infantry brigades have pretty strong and good fighting spirit on its own. So that this might be sufficient, sort of basically to cover this section of the front line. But we'll find out later if that's correct assumption or not. Now let's move finally to Kherson bridgehead. Things here are essentially without changes. Some Russian attempts to destroy this bridgehead, but then also Ukrainian attempts to expand bridgehead and specifically to take control of Davydiv Bridge. Both sides were not successful. I think that, as I said many times before, the fate of this is being decided by attacking this pontoon bridges and ferries across Dnipro River. That's where sort of that's how the fate of this bridgehead is going to be sort of resolved. And basically, I would say that this is, as I said before many times, this is done deal. The writing is on the wall. You even let's say a lot of Russian troops, they probably won't be able to come here and be supported essentially. So this is something that Russian troops will, or Russian side will lose sooner or later. Maybe it's going to take another month because I thought it's going to be done by end of September. We're still not even close to be sort of done there. There's significant advances, but nowhere near where it needs to be. So it may take another month, maybe take another 2 months more, but this is gonna be lost by the Russian side essentially, sooner or later. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.